Did you know that in the United States, entire towns have been found completely abandoned, with everything left intact as if people had suddenly fled? That there are roads where dozens of drivers have reported seeing the same figure, standing in the darkness, and that there are buildings closed for years where sounds are still heard, even though no one is inside. Get ready, because today you'll discover 33 short, true, unsettling, and shocking stories you'll only find in the United States. Documented events, unexplained encounters, and mysteries that continue to confuse those who investigate them. 33. The Winged Omen of Point Pleasant. In the mid-1960s, the residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia began reporting encounters with a creature that defied every known law of biology. Described as a humanoid figure standing nearly 7 feet tall with a massive wingspan and piercing, glowing red eyes, this entity became known to the world as the Mothman. The sightings were concentrated around an abandoned explosives manufacturing facility from World War II, a place locals called the TNT area. For 13 months, the town lived in a state of quiet dread as the winged shadow was seen gliding over cars and peering through windows. The phenomenon reached a tragic crescendo in December 1967 when the Silver Bridge collapsed into the Ohio River, claiming 46 lives. Many locals came to believe the creature was not a predator, but a grim harbinger of the impending disaster that forever changed the community. 32. The 13th child of the Barrens. Deep within the sprawling Pine Barrens of New Jersey, a legend has persisted for nearly 3 centuries regarding the birth of a demon. In 1735, a woman known as Mother Leeds was reportedly pregnant with her 13th child. Frustrated by the burden of another mouth to feed in the desolate wilderness, she allegedly cursed the unborn infant, crying out that she hoped it would be a devil. As the story goes, the child was born normal, but quickly transformed into a creature with the head of a horse, the wings of a bat, and a forked tail. It shrieked at the horrified midwives before flying up the chimney and into the dark swamps. Since then, thousands of people, including a naval commander and various police officers, have claimed to see the Jersey Devil prowling the woods, leaving behind strange tracks and an unmistakable bone-chilling scream. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe and leave a like to keep discovering the strange and incredible geography of our entire country. 31. The Ghost Lights of the Linville Gorge. In the rugged mountains of North Carolina, specifically around Brown Mountain, a series of mysterious atmospheric lights has puzzled observers since before the United States was even a nation. These orbs of light are said to rise from the valley floor, hovering and flickering in various colors before vanishing into the night sky. The Cherokee people told stories of the lights being the spirits of women searching for their lost warriors after a great battle. In the early 20th century, the United States Geological Survey sent teams to investigate, suggesting the lights might be reflections of locomotives or car headlights. However, sightings predating the arrival of electricity and automobiles continue to challenge scientific explanations. To this day, hikers at the Wiseman's View Overlook report seeing the silent dancing spheres, maintaining a mystery that has survived for centuries in the ancient Appalachian wilderness. 30. The Debris in the Desert. The summer of 1947 changed the landscape of American conspiracy culture forever when a rancher found strange wreckage in a field outside Roswell, New Mexico. What began as a local news report about the military capturing a flying saucer was quickly retracted and replaced with a mundane explanation involving a weather balloon. However, the initial description of the debris, metallic sticks held by tape and indestructible foil, fueled decades of speculation. Years later, declassified documents revealed the wreckage was actually part of Project Mogul, a top-secret government initiative using high-altitude balloons to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. Despite this earthly explanation, the story of Roswell remains the definitive American myth of the space age. It transformed a quiet ranching community into a global hub for those seeking the truth about what might be hidden in the stars, proving that sometimes the cover-up is more enduring than the reality. 29. The Enigma of the Granite Pillars. In 1979, a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian approached a granite finishing company in Elberton, Georgia, with a request to build a massive monument. The result was the Georgia Guidestones, a set of 6 granite slabs inscribed with 10 guidelines for humanity in 8 different languages. These instructions touched on sensitive topics like population control and global governance, leading some to view them as a blueprint for a post-apocalyptic world. The monument was also a sophisticated sophisticated astronomical calendar, featuring holes that tracked the North Star and the sun's position during solstices. For 42 years, the guidestones stood as a source of intense debate and conspiracy theories, until they were partially destroyed by an explosive device in July 22 and subsequently demolished for safety. The identity of the mysterious benefactor and the true intent behind the stones remain one of the South's most intriguing modern secrets. 28. The dancing orbs of the Marfa Plateau. High in the desert of West Texas, near the small town of Marfa, a spectacle of light has been documented since 1883. Cowboys driving cattle through the Paisano Pass first noticed flickering lights in the distance, initially fearing they were Apache campfires. Upon investigation, they found no ashes, no wood, and no evidence of human presence. These Marfa lights appear as basketball-sized spheres that change color, merge, split apart, and zip across the horizon at impossible speeds. While skeptics often attribute the sightings to the atmospheric mirroring of car headlights on a distant highway, the historical records from the 19th century suggest a more elusive origin, whether they are a rare piezoelectric phenomenon caused by quartz in the mountains or something entirely beyond our current understanding. The lights have turned this remote desert outpost into a legendary destination for seekers of the unexplained. 27. The Great Cetacean Explosion of Florence. In November 1970, the town of Florence, Oregon, faced a logistical nightmare when a 45-foot sperm whale washed ashore and died. The stench was unbearable, and the local highway division was tasked with disposing of the massive carcass. Instead of burying it, an engineer decided that 20 cases of dynamite would be sufficient to blast the whale into small pieces that seagulls could easily consume. The execution of this plan was televised and became one of the most absurd moments in American history. When the fuse was lit, the explosion did not vaporize the whale. Instead, it sent enormous chunks of blubber raining down on the town like wet, stinking boulders. One piece of fat even crushed a parked car over a quarter-mile away. The seagulls, terrified by the blast, fled the scene, leaving the residents to clean up a catastrophic oily mess by hand. 26. The Defiance of Giles Corey. During the height of the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts in 1692, an 80-year-old farmer named Giles Corey became a symbol of incredible endurance and legal savvy. Accused of witchcraft, Corey knew that if he pleaded guilty or not guilty, the court could seize his property, leaving nothing for his heirs. To prevent the trial from proceeding, he refused to enter any plea at all, standing mute before the judges. The legal remedy for this at the time was a torture known as pressing. For 2 days, Corey was laid on the ground while heavy stone weights were piled onto his chest to force a confession. Each time he was asked for a plea, he famously responded with only 2 words: more weight. He eventually died from the pressure without ever giving the court the satisfaction of a plea, successfully ensuring his land passed to his sons. 25. The Indigo Lineage of the Hills. Tucked away in the isolated hills of eastern Kentucky during the 19th century, a family lived whose skin was the color of a summer sky. The Fugates of Troublesome Creek were a lineage that carried a rare genetic condition known as methemoglobinemia, which reduces the blood's ability to carry oxygen, resulting in a blue tint to the skin. Because the community was so secluded, the family often intermarried with neighbors who carried the same recessive gene, causing the blue trait to persist for generations. For over a century, the Blue people of Kentucky were a local legend, often avoiding the judgmental eyes of outsiders. It was not until the mid-20th century that a hematologist discovered the cause and provided a simple chemical treatment that could turn their skin pink in minutes. The story remains a fascinating study of genetic isolation and the unique cultural pocket of the Appalachian frontier. 24. The Mystery of the Casket Girls. In the early 18th century, the French colony of Louisiana was struggling to grow, leading the government to send groups of young women to New Orleans to marry the settlers. These women were known as the filles à la cassette, or casket girls, because of the small chest-like trunks they carried. Legend in the French Quarter suggests that these girls were not ordinary immigrants, but were actually carrying something sinister within their luggage. Some stories claim the caskets were empty because the girls were actually vampires who had hidden their true nature during the long voyage from France. When the girls were housed in the old Ursuline convent, the third-floor windows were reportedly nailed shut to keep the creatures inside, while the historical reality is that these were likely just impoverished orphans looking for a new life. The dark folklore of the vampire brides continues to haunt the shadows of Louisiana. 23. The town that is still burning. Underneath the abandoned streets of Centralia, Pennsylvania, a fire has been burning for over 60 years with no sign of stopping. In 1962, a routine trash fire at the local landfill accidentally ignited an exposed vein of anthracite coal. The fire quickly spread into the labyrinth of abandoned mining tunnels that honeycombed the earth beneath the town. For decades, the residents lived with the smell of sulfur and the sight of smoke rising from cracks in the pavement. The danger became undeniable in 1981 when a 12-year-old boy was nearly swallowed by a sinkhole that suddenly opened in his backyard, venting lethal carbon monoxide. Most of the town was eventually evacuated and demolished, leaving behind a ghost town where the ground is still hot to the touch. Experts believe the coal fire could continue to burn for another 250 years. 22. The metallic beak of the Blue Ridge. In the late 19th century, German immigrants in Frederick County, Maryland, shared terrifying accounts of a beast they called the Schnellgeister, or fast spirit. This creature was described as a massive metallic-skinned bird with a long beak filled with razor-sharp teeth and tentacles that it used to snatch livestock and children into the night. The stories became so widespread that even President Theodore Roosevelt reportedly considered hunting the beast himself. Local newspapers published frantic reports of a one-eyed monster that screamed like a locomotive whistle and left behind strange, unidentifiable tracks in the snow. Farmers were so frightened that they painted 7-pointed stars on their barns to ward off the creature, a tradition that persists in the region today. Whether it was a collective hallucination or a misidentified prehistoric remnant, the Snallygaster remains the most formidable apex predator of Maryland's rural folklore. 21. The Howl of the Man-Wolf. In the dense forests of Michigan, a legend emerged in 1887 that still makes locals lock their doors during a full moon. It began in Wexford County, where lumberjacks reported seeing a creature that stood 7 feet tall, possessed the torso of a man, and the head of a terrifying wolf. Known as the Michigan Dogman, this beast is said to appear in 10-year cycles, leaving behind tracks that look remarkably like a human wearing boots, yet with the claws of a predator. The legend gained national attention in the late 20th century when a local radio disc jockey recorded a song about the creature, thinking it was a joke, only to be flooded with calls from witnesses who claimed to have seen the beast themselves. From the northern woods to the outskirts of Detroit, the Dogman is a chilling reminder of the wild, untamed nature of the Great Lakes. 20. The Last Vampire of New England. In the late 19th century, the residents of Exeter, Rhode Island, were gripped by a terrifying consumption epidemic. When young Mercy Brown died of the disease in 1892, the community suspected that one of the recently deceased family members was a vampire, draining the life from the living. In a desperate attempt to save Mercy's brother, the townspeople exhumed the bodies of her mother and sister, finding them decomposed. However, when they opened Mercy's casket, her body was remarkably well preserved, and her heart allegedly contained fresh blood. To end the perceived curse, the townspeople cut out her heart, burned it on a rock, and mixed the ashes into a tonic for her brother to drink. This tragic event remains the most famous instance of the New England vampire panic, blending medical misunderstanding with a grim, visceral determination to survive a mysterious plague. 19. The Silent Guide of the Tri-State Border. Near the small town of Quapaw, Oklahoma, a mysterious light has been appearing along a stretch of road known as the Devil's Promenade for over a century. Known as the Hornet Spook Light, this golden orb of light is said to hover and dance across the horizon, often changing size and color as it approaches curious onlookers. Legend says it is the lantern of a long-dead miner searching for his missing head, or perhaps a spirit guide for those lost in the woods. Unlike many other atmospheric anomalies, this light has been studied by scientists and military officials alike, yet no one has been able to provide a definitive explanation for its silent, persistent presence. It remains a fixture of the Oklahoma landscape, a flickering reminder that some phenomena refuse to be explained away by modern science or the passing of the years. 18. The Shadow of the Sawgrass. Deep within the vast, humidity-choked wilderness of the Florida Everglades, stories persist of a creature that is as elusive as it is pungent. Known as the skunk ape, this large bipedal primate is said to stand over 7 feet tall and emit a foul odor comparable to a mixture of rotten eggs and swamp gas. Sightings date back decades, with hunters and hikers describing a reddish-brown beast that moves with incredible speed through the dense sawgrass. In the year 2000, an anonymous woman sent photographs to a local sheriff's department claiming the creature had been stealing apples from her back porch. While skeptics suggest the sightings are simply simply misidentified black bears or escaped orangutans, the legend of the skunk ape has become an inseparable part of Florida's wild identity, representing the untamable mysteries that still lurk in the state's primeval swamps. 17. The Serpent of the Inland Sea. Lake Champlain, which stretches between Vermont and New York, is said to be the home of a massive aquatic creature known affectionately as Champ. Descriptions of the monster date back to the indigenous Abenaki people, who spoke of a horned serpent inhabiting the deep waters. In 1819, a local captain reported seeing a black creature over 100 feet long with eyes like silver dollars. The most famous modern evidence came in 1977 when a vacationer snapped a photograph of a long-necked entity rising from the waves, a picture that has never been definitively debunked. Today, the state of Vermont has passed laws to protect the creature from harm, treating it as a legitimate, if unconfirmed, member of the local ecosystem. Champ remains a symbol of the enduring mystery of the Great North Woods and the depths of the inland sea. 16. The Curse of the Superstition Mountains. In the rugged wilderness of Arizona, the Superstition Mountains hold a secret that has cost many treasure hunters their lives. According to legend, a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz discovered a massive vein of gold in the mountains during the late 19th century. On his deathbed, he supposedly provided cryptic clues to the location of his lost Dutchman mine, but warned that the area was cursed by the spirits who guarded the peaks. For over a century, thousands have ventured into the treacherous terrain searching for the gold, many of whom have vanished without a trace or been found dead under mysterious circumstances. Some locals believe the mountain itself is a sentient entity that hides its riches from those with greed in their hearts. The legend of the Lost Dutchman remains the ultimate American siren song, drawing the adventurous into the beautiful, deadly Arizona desert. 15. The Frogmen of the Little Miami. In the quiet town of Loveland, Ohio, a bizarre encounter in 1955 sparked a legend that has endured for generations. A businessman traveling late at night claimed to see three creatures standing nearly 4 feet tall at the side of the road, described as having leathery skin and frog-like faces. One of the creatures supposedly waved a wand that emitted sparks before they all jumped into the Little Miami River. Nearly 20 years later, a police officer reported seeing a similar beast crouching on a bridge, which he initially mistook for a large dog until it stood up and climbed over the railing. While some dismiss the stories as sightings of large iguanas or misidentified shadows, the Loveland Frogman has become a beloved local mascot. It serves as a reminder that even in the suburban heartland, something truly strange might be watching from the riverbank. 14. The Scourge of Scape Ore Swamp. The summer of 1988 in Bishopville, South Carolina was dominated by reports of a creature that looked like it had stepped out of a horror film. A young man claimed that while changing a tire near Scape Ore Swamp, he was chased by a 7-foot-tall beast with glowing red eyes and 3-clawed hands. The creature, which became known as the Lizard Man, allegedly jumped onto the roof of his car, leaving behind deep scratches and damaged side mirrors. Following this report, dozens of other residents came forward with similar stories, and local law enforcement even found unusual 3-toed footprints in the mud around the swamp. The frenzy reached such a peak that a local radio station offered a $1 million reward for the creature's capture. To this day, the Lizard Man remains the most famous resident of the South Carolina Lowcountry's dark and tangled waterways. 13. The March of the Ancient Warriors. In the islands of Hawaii, there is a legend of the Huakai Po, or the Night Marchers, the ghostly spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors who roam the islands after dark. These spectral armies are said to march in a disciplined line, accompanied by the sound of drums and the glow of torches, visiting sacred sites and former battlefields. According to folklore, looking a night marcher in the eye is a fatal mistake unless you have an ancestor among their ranks who can claim you as family. To survive an encounter, one must lie face down on the ground in total silence and show absolute respect as the procession passes. Many residents of the island still take these stories very seriously, avoiding certain trails at night and keeping their homes quiet during the phases of the moon when the marchers are most likely to appear in the mist. 12. The Shapeshifter of the Frozen North. Among the Tlingit people of Alaska, few creatures are as feared as the Kushtaka, a malevolent shapeshifter that inhabits the rugged coastline and icy waters. The name translates roughly to land otter man, and the creature is said to appear to those who are drowning or lost in the wilderness. The Kushtaka often takes the form of a trusted friend or a beautiful woman to lure its victims deeper into the forest or into the freezing sea. Once captured, the victim is transformed into a Kushtaka, losing their soul and their humanity forever. However, stories of the creature have been used for generations to warn children of the dangers of the Alaskan wilderness, where the line between survival and disaster is as thin as the ice on a winter lake. The legend remains a powerful testament to the respect and fear the northern landscape demands from all who enter. 11. The Gelatinous Rain of Oakville. In August 1994, the residents of Oakville, Washington experienced a weather event that seemed to belong in a science fiction novel. Instead of water, translucent gelatinous blobs fell from the sky, covering a 20 square mile area. Shortly after the mysterious substance landed, dozens of people became mysteriously ill with flu-like symptoms, and several pets perished. A local resident took a sample of the blobs to a technician who claimed they contained human white blood cells. Though later state testing was inconclusive, theories ranged from the military testing biological weapons to the remains of jellyfish vaporized by offshore explosions being swept up into the clouds. Despite various investigations, no definitive answer was ever found, and the incident remains one of the strangest biological mysteries in the history of the Pacific Northwest, leaving the town forever wary of what the clouds might bring. Before moving on to story number 10, remember to subscribe and like to become an expert on the history of our wonderful country. 10. The Cursed Silence of Dudleytown. Deep within the woods of Cornwall, Connecticut lies the ruins of Dudleytown, a settlement that earned a reputation as a place where hope goes to die. Founded in the mid-18th century, the village was plagued by a series of inexplicable tragedies, including sudden bouts of insanity, mysterious disappearances, and a string of untimely deaths among its residents. Local lore suggests the land was cursed by an English nobleman who fled to the colonies, bringing a dark legacy with him. By the early 20th century, the town was completely abandoned and the forest reclaimed the stone foundations. Visitors often report a heavy sense of dread and an eerie silence where no birds sing or insects buzz. While historians point to poor soil and isolation as the cause of the town's decline, the legend of the curse remains a chilling part of Connecticut's colonial heritage. 9. The Solitary Spirit of the Dunes. In the early 20th century, a highly educated woman named Alice Gray abandoned her life in Chicago to live in a primitive shack among the shifting sands of the Indiana Dunes. Known to the public as Diana of the Dunes, she became a local legend for her commitment to preserving the natural beauty of the lakeshore and her rejection of modern society. She lived off the land, bathing in Lake Michigan and spending her days studying the flora and fauna. After her death in 1925, rumors began to circulate that her spirit never truly left the shoreline. Hikers and park rangers have reported seeing a pale, ethereal figure running along the crests of the dunes at twilight, only to vanish into the crashing waves. Alice's story is a poignant reminder of the fierce independence and enduring love for the wilderness that defines the Hoosier spirit. 8. The Torment of the Bell Family. Between 1817 and 1821, a farm in Adams, Tennessee became the site of what many consider the most documented haunting in American history. The Bell family was targeted by an entity known as the Bell Witch, which reportedly spoke moved objects and physically assaulted family members. The entity's primary focus was John Bell and his daughter Betsy, whom it tormented with relentless shrieks and physical strikes. Even future President Andrew Jackson reportedly visited the farm to investigate, only to have his carriage wheels lock mysteriously and his party flee in terror after witnessing the phenomenon. The haunting ended shortly after the death of John Bell, whom the witch claimed to have poisoned. To this day, the Bell Witch Cave remains a destination for those seeking to understand the source of this malicious and vocal spirit that terrified a frontier community. 7. The Beast of the Sulphur River. In the small town of Fouke, Arkansas, a legend was born in the 1970s that would eventually inspire a cult classic film. Residents began reporting sightings of a large, hair-covered creature stalking the swamps around the Sulphur River. Known as the Fouke Monster, this bipedal beast was said to be nearly 7 feet tall and possessed of a terrifying, high-pitched scream. The most famous encounter involved the Ford family, who claimed the creature attacked their home and reached through a window, leaving behind large, three-toed footprints. The sighting sparked a regional frenzy, drawing hunters and journalists from across the country to the dense Arkansas bottomlands. While some dismiss the creature as a misidentified animal, the local community has embraced the legend, making the Fouke Monster a permanent and beloved fixture of the state's cultural landscape and a symbol of its untamed wilds. 6. The Terror of Colchester Bridge. Following a tragic bus accident in the early 20th century near Fairfax, Virginia, a dark legend emerged concerning a figure known as the Bunny Man. The story suggests that an escaped mental patient survived the crash and began living in the woods, decorating a local railway bridge with the carcasses of rabbits. In 1970, the legend took a modern turn when a couple parked near the bridge reported a man dressed in a white rabbit suit throwing a hatchet through their car window. Weeks later, a security guard encountered a similar figure hacking at a porch railing with an axe. These incidents turned the Colchester overpass into a site of local dread where teenagers go to test their courage on Halloween. Though the more macabre details are likely exaggerations, the documented police reports from the 1970s proved that something truly strange was happening in the Virginia suburbs. 5. The Werewolf of Walworth County. In the late 1980s, a series of sightings along a rural road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, gave rise to the legend of the Beast of Bray Road. Multiple witnesses, including a local bartender and a young woman driving home at night, reported seeing a large wolf-like creature that walked on its hind legs. Unlike traditional werewolf myths, this beast was seen during both day and night and often appeared to be scavenging for food in the fields. A local journalist named Linda Godfrey investigated the report, finding that the descriptions were remarkably consistent across different witnesses who had never met. The sightings created a media sensation, turning a quiet dairy community into a focal point for cryptozoologists. Whether it was a rare species of indigenous canine or something more supernatural, the beast remains the most famous and persistent mystery of the Wisconsin countryside. 4. The Labyrinth of Sarah Winchester. Following the death of her husband and child, Sarah Winchester, the heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, became convinced that she was being haunted by the spirits of those killed by her family's weapon. 3. The Shadows of Groom Lake. Deep in the Nevada desert, within a restricted military zone known as Area 51, lies the most famous secret in American history. For decades, the site was used to test experimental aircraft, such as the U-2 and the A-12 Archangel, which were often mistaken for extraterrestrial craft by observers. The mystery reached a fever pitch in the late 1980s when a man named Bob Lazar claimed he had worked on reverse engineering alien technology at a nearby facility. While the government officially denied the existence of the base for years, declassified documents eventually confirmed its role as a testing ground for top-secret defense projects. Despite the earthly explanations, the aura of secrecy surrounding Groom Lake has made Nevada the global epicenter for theories about what might be hidden in our hangars, proving that the line between high-tech reality and science fiction is often blurred. 2. The Mysterious Vapor of Mattoon. In September 1944, the residents of Mattoon, Illinois, were gripped by a panic caused by an unseen assailant known as the Mad Gasser. Multiple people reported smelling a sweet, cloying odor in their homes, followed by symptoms of paralysis, nausea, and swelling of the throat. The first victim claimed to see a tall, thin figure standing outside her window, pumping a gas-like substance into her bedroom. Over the following 2 weeks, dozens of similar reports flooded the local police department, leading to a town-wide lockdown and armed patrols of the streets. While some experts believe the incident was a case of mass hysteria fueled by wartime anxiety, others point to the possibility of a real culprit or an accidental industrial leak. The mystery of the gas attacks remains one of the most intriguing examples of collective psychological phenomena and unexplained urban events in the Midwest. 1. The Gateway of the Plains. In the quiet town of Stull, Kansas, sits a small cemetery that has gained international notoriety as one of the 7 gateways to hell. Legend says that the ruins of the old stone church on the property contain a hidden staircase that leads directly to the underworld, and that the devil himself visits the site twice a year. These stories became so prevalent that they reached the ears of famous musicians and pop culture figures, further cementing the cemetery's dark reputation. In reality, the site is a peaceful graveyard, but the sheer volume of trespassing and vandalism forced the local government to strictly limit access. Despite the demolition of the old church, the belief in the cemetery's spiritual significance persists, making Stull a foundational piece of American folklore that represents our fascination with the thin veil between our world and the darkness that lies beyond. After watching these 33 stories about the United States, tell us, did you know any of them? Which one did you like best? Or which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Let's see how many of us share the same story, and if you think we've missed something or want to add something, we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback helps us improve each video. Also, if you noticed any pronunciation mistakes, thank you for your patience. We strive to improve with every video, and speaking of videos, there's another one playing right now so you can continue exploring the history of our beautiful country. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe and like so we can keep learning together. See you in the next one.